The Crusades were not a holy war. They were a marketplace of blood. And some of the fiercest battles weren't fought against Muslims. They were fought in shadows behind monastery walls and beneath the banners of brothers. The Hospitallers and the Templars, supposed allies in Christ, nearly destroyed each other. And lurking between them, slipping blades into both camps, were the Assassins, a war hidden from the textbooks, a conspiracy buried by silence, and a question no one dares ask aloud. What if the real war was never East versus West, but cross versus cross? You don't need to pick a side tonight. You don't need to take up the sword or weigh truth against dogma. Just close your eyes. Let the sound of the desert winds return. Let the flicker of torchlight bounce across old stone. And listen, because history is whispering something it was forbidden to speak. It begins in the 12th century, but not where you'd expect. Not in Jerusalem, not in Rome, but somewhere between the ridges of the anti-Lebanon mountains and the dark corridors of European vaults where documents were hidden and deaths were staged. The Hospitallers were healers until they weren't. The Templars were guardians until their loyalty blurred. And the Assassins, well, they were never supposed to be part of the Christian story at all. But somehow these three groups, each with their own vows, their own enemies, their own divine orders, found themselves bound by secrets, treaties, betrayals, and blades. What happened between them wasn't recorded in great battles or sung in ballads. It was etched into letters smuggled across borders, etched into papal warnings that vanished from Vatican halls, etched into the lips of dying knights who dared speak of brotherhood turned treachery. And yet, when the scrolls were sealed and the monasteries locked, a strange quiet descended. Tonight we break that silence. Tonight we follow the footprints left behind in sand and ink. And we begin with a single year, the year the orders split. But before we venture further into the shadows, take a moment to subscribe so you never miss a secret that history has tried to forget. The year was 1127. To most chroniclers, it was the year of Montgisard, when a leper king named Baldwin IV, barely able to hold a sword, led a miraculous Christian victory against the great Saladin. The victory was swift, brutal, and widely hailed as divine intervention. But something else happened that year quietly and without fanfare. A fracture. Not between Christian and Muslim, but between the two most powerful Christian military orders in the Holy Land, the Knights Templar and the Knights Hospitaller. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a disagreement over tactics. The Templars, ever the aggressors, wanted to pursue Saladin's forces further. The Hospitallers, more cautious, advised consolidation. But buried beneath the strategic bickering was something older, something personal. For years, both orders had vied for favorland and papal privilege. The events of 1177 simply gave them a reason to draw their lines in the sand. It's important to understand that these were not just armies, they were institutions, global, wealthy, and immune to local kings. The Templars answered only to the Pope, and so did the Hospitallers. They owned castles, controlled ports, taxed peasants, and brokered truces, sometimes without even informing their supposed allies. In short, they were powers unto themselves. And like all unchecked powers, they were bound to clash. The aftermath of Montgisard was quietly revealing. The Templars claimed credit for the victory, their white mantles splashed with blood and pride. The Hospitallers were conspicuously silent. In a chronicle penned anonymously just 3 years later, there's an odd mention that the Hospitallers withheld aid at a crucial moment during the battle, an accusation that was never publicly investigated, but was whispered behind closed doors. One letter from a Spanish prelate mentions a divine reckoning between the two orders.